Welcome to another Figuring Out Japan video. We sell all the coolest Japanese collectibles and figurines straight out of Japan, and you can find out more details about us in the description of this video, including our Facebook page and our online store. So in this video, I wanted to talk about the upcoming Banpresto World Figure Colosseum series. This is going to be Series 2. Now I'm sure most of you have seen the images out there on the internet. The reason I'm doing this video now is because this is the new series is about to be released. So they actually come out tomorrow, which is March 2019, and they'll be released at a rate of 2 figures per month. So the last ones will come out in July 2019. So like I said, the purpose of this video is just to sort of give a bit of an overview and just some of my thoughts. And, I really want to see, some comments of people saying what they think about the new series, because this is a pretty big release for fans and collectors. And it's always interesting to hear people's different views and opinions of the upcoming line. So firstly, the release schedule of the figures. So for Dragon Ball in March, we get second stage Frieza and Piccolo. Then in April, we get the Bikey Goku. I'm going to call him the Bikey Goku, which is this one here, and Android 17. Then in May, we get Vegeta and the Teen Goku, which is this one up here with the umbrella or the parasol. Then in June, we get Trunks and Child Goku. And then finally in July, we get the Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black. For One Piece, in March, we get the Child Usopp, which is this one, and the Sanji. In April, we get Nami and Jinbei. Then in May, we get Sabo and Usopp. And then I'm losing count. Then in June, we get Luffy and Katakuri. And then finally in July, we get Don Krieg. So that is the release schedule of those figures. So if you pre-order them from us, that's when we will be sending them out to you. Obviously, there'll be some delay because of international shipping. If you pre-ordered them from elsewhere and you're not getting them around those times, then I would recommend that you get in touch with your seller. So overall, some thoughts. So yeah, I'm not going to go into like the whole what is BWFC and the history and all that sort of stuff. I figure most people know about all that, and if you don't, then you don't really need to. All you need to know is that these figures are coming out. Again, March to July 2019. One thing I will, though, quickly point out, which again, I'm sure most of you know, is that BWFC is the continuation of the SCultures line. So when I say BWFC, I also kind of mean the SCultures line. The other thing worth pointing out is that it actually says here 2018. And I know with the BWFC from last year, there was actually a series last year in 2018. So 2018 is the year that the prototypes were made and fans were shown what the figures are so they could vote for them. But the figures themselves actually come out in 2019. But with BWFC Series 1, they actually printed this on the bases as well. So I assume they'll do the same thing this year. So there's a little bit of confusion possibly with that as well. So some of my thoughts of the figures. So firstly, the lineups. As I'm talking, I might just show you guys some pictures of these just as I talk. So the lineup, I think, is pretty strong. I mean, we get 18 figures, which I think is pretty good. One thing that I was a bit surprised about with Dragon Ball is that we actually get 3 Gokus, 4 if you include Goku Black. I personally felt that that was a little bit too much. I know Goku, it's Goku and everything, but still, I couldn't help but feel that it's a little bit too much to have three Goku figures. Um, and for One Piece, probably the only thing that I would have said with One Piece is I'm surprised that we get two Usopp figures. I mean, there's still a lot of great figures that we haven't had in the BWFC line, like the Admirals, some of the Shichibukai, the Warlords, even some of the Straw Hats we haven't had. Haven't had Nico Robin in the SCultures line. We've had Robot Frankie, but we haven't had Frankie, etc. So actually, I'm quite happy about with the lineup this year with One Piece is that we don't get a Zoro and Trafalgar Law, because I think in general we've had a lot of Zoro and Trafalgar Laws over the years, and I am glad that for a change we don't have um, one of those, which means that because there's always an opportunity cost, right? That if you make one figure, then that means you're not going to make another figure. So um, but I'm particularly happy with Dragon Ball because I've said in the past that the three figures that I personally want to see the most made is Android 17, Saiyan Saga Vegeta, and Dabura or Dabura. So the fact that we get two of those this year, I'm quite happy about that personally myself. So anyway, that's just some of my thoughts with the lineup. Some of the things that I picked up in terms of, I mean, I don't want to like micro analyze each figure um, myself, but just some of the perhaps improvements or recommendations that I would have had with some of the figures, some of the things that just kind of stick out to me a little bit with the figures. I mean, obviously they're all good. I mean, there's no duds here in in the series, but just to point out some of the things that I felt perhaps could have been done a little bit better or a little bit differently. So let's focus on One Piece first. So firstly, with Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black, I thought that his skin was just a little bit too dark. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? It sounds like I'm racist, but um, yeah, I just felt that it just looks a little bit, just looks like he came out of the tanning salon. Not a big deal, but yeah, it just looks a little bit unnaturally dark to me. This figure here of the child Goku, um, so I think the anime, and I'm willing to be corrected on this, but I think in the anime, it actually is a blue box with the words white in milk. From memory, that's what it is. I haven't actually, I have to admit, I haven't bothered to check. Whereas here, it's actually a white box with the words milk in blue. So I don't know whether perhaps in the original black and white manga, it was a white box with the words milk in black, and therefore they went with the manga coloring, or whether they got it wrong. I don't know. It's not a big deal either way. But that's just something that I picked up. I'm pretty sure in the anime it is actually a blue box with the words white in milk. Not a big deal one way or the other. Now, the trunks, a lot of people have been talking about the trunks and the fact that his leg looks hyperextended. If you don't know what hyperextended means, it means that the leg is bending up rather than down. And I actually, having a close look at at his leg, I don't actually think it looks hyperextended. I think it does sort of look kind of, straight. I think what makes this actually look a bit strange, and it may just be the perception of the camera angle or something, I'm not sure. But if you actually have a look at a leg, for example, your own leg, the leg is wide at the thigh here, and then it sort of becomes thin as you go down to, the shin and then the ankle. So it's sort of like a upside down triangle. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but like an elongated upside down triangle. Whereas if you have a look at this leg here, the leg's width or thickness doesn't actually change. In fact, if anything, it actually looks wider here than it does up here. And I think that's what makes this figure look a little bit odd, that they just got the thickness of the leg wrong, because the feet shouldn't be wider than the thigh or the top of the leg. So I think that's what went wrong with this figure. I don't think it's so much the knee joint and the way that it bends here. I think they just got the width or the proportions of at least the left leg a little bit wrong. Now, of course, some things work in anime land that don't really work in the real world. I've personally drawn, not that I'm boasting, but I've drawn Dragon Ball a lot, and it is weird when you actually sit there and draw them. It is interesting how you notice, for example, how big their foreheads are. Like, look how big Trunks' forehead is, or look how big Goku's forehead is, and it kind of works in anime land. But if you actually look at a real human head, it's not quite that big. So sometimes you see drawings, and Goku may have big feet, but sometimes when you sort of translate that into a physical thing, it can come across a bit strange. So that was something that I picked up with the Trunks. Was this Vegeta. Now, as I said, I was really looking forward to Saiyan Saga Vegeta. I'm really glad that they've finally released one in this line. And this is not a bad figure, but I think it could have been a lot better. So the reason that I say that is because, firstly, he doesn't have his scouter. Now, I know people will point out to me that he is technically battle damaged here. And of course, in the actual fight in the series, Vegeta takes his scouter off very early. If you remember, he realizes that the Earthlings are able to conceal their power or their true power level, and therefore the scouters are not necessary, and he destroys his. But I still think he would have looked cooler with the scouter. It probably means more to me than most people. I admit I have a bit of a fetish, if you want to call it that, for scouters. I just think he would have looked cooler with it, and it would have looked good as a set with the Nappa and the Raditz from SCultures 5. But the other thing is, and I've said this before as well, if you're going to make a battle damage figure, make it properly look battle damage. I mean, the only battle damage here is just this part. They could have like torn parts here or had other parts of his armor damaged or something. So yeah. And the other thing with this figure is that this is actually a suspended figure in the air. So by that I mean his feet are off the ground. And the advantage to that is that you can make a very dramatic pose. The disadvantage to that is that generally the figure becomes much smaller. And this figure is actually much smaller because of the fact that he has to be suspended in the air. But I don't think that it's a very dramatic figure when you look at it. I mean, it's just kind of Vegeta in a fighting stance. It's quite similar actually to the SCultures Series 2 Goku, which I've also reviewed. So they could have made this a bit more full size. So I think if they were going to do something like this, they probably should have made Vegeta. I'll show that image in a sec. Yeah. They should have made Vegeta something like this when he's doing his garlic gun. And you can see he just looks a bit more wild. He's got his hair all like frazzled, and you can see he's in a really dramatic, floating in the air, battle action stance. I would have personally preferred that than simply something like the image that we had before. And you can see even that his hair is quite, it's quite simple. There's very little detail and gradient in there. So, this is not a bad figure, but it could have been great. It could have been really, really great. And as an example, you saw the image pop up before. So this was the Trunks from BWFC Series 1. To me, that is an amazing figure. It's a real action floating in the air type stance, and fans pick up on that. You know, this was released 12 months ago as of the time of this video, and even in Japan, very hard figure to find. If you can find it, it's a very expensive price. Because and that's quite rare, you know, just simply 12 months after the initial release. So you know, fans definitely pick up on these things. So I think, you know, that could have been an awesome figure, and instead it's just kind of, you know, an okay figure. But they were just some of the things I picked up from the Dragon Ball one. It's also worth pointing out as well that the second stage Freezer, so I believe the sculptor of the second stage Freezer is the same sculptor who did the Perfect Cell from BWFC 1. And it's a bit hard to see, but with the cell, he actually has like a brain inside the head, and with his semi-transparent part on the top, you can actually see the brain when you come up close to it. And it looks like that they've done the same with the second stage Freezer, which some people may not like because, you know, technically in the series you can't actually see that. I mean, we don't even know if they have the same anatomy as humans and actually have a brain in here, if you want to get really technical. But I personally think it's a really nice detail that they've put in. And to be honest, you can't really notice it unless you actually get up really close to the figures. So I just wanted to point that out with this figure as well, because it's not obvious just looking at the image. I have to admit myself, I didn't notice that it was there in the cell until I actually had the physical figure. It was released and I had the physical figure in front of me. So that were just some of the things that I picked up on with the Dragon Ball series. For the One Piece series, to be honest, I don't really have any sort of major, you know, complaints or issues with the figures. Probably the only one that I would have said was the Sabo. To me, looks a little bit odd. The way he's sort of got this leg really high up, and the bent pipe. Obviously, the pipe wouldn't be bent. I suppose they've done that to just give it that action, you know, viewpoint or action stance. But to me, it almost looks like something out of Mary Poppins, you know, with these top hat and everything. So to me, it just looks a little bit strange. But you know, otherwise, I think with One Piece, it's a pretty solid, lineup, and it's a pretty, you know, pretty solid release schedule. So yeah, quite like that. So yeah, just to finish off, what figures do I personally like? And I stress the word personally. I think for Dragon Ball, my top three would be Android 17, Second Stage Freezer, and Future Trunks would probably be my top three. Maybe special mention for the Piccolo as well. I think the Piccolo looks pretty badass. Just as I'm talking, I just get maybe a different perspective, a different view of some of the figures. So yeah, and I think it's nice we get another Piccolo, because you know, if you think about some of the more recent figure lines with Dragon Ball, you know, we've had you know, Master Star's Peace, Grandista, you know, those kind of lines. We haven't had a Piccolo, so I think it's nice that we you know, that we get Piccolo. But anyway, they're my top three. I understand some fans may have wanted some more Dragon Ball Super figures. A lot of our customers have said they want, you know, Jiren or you know, Hit or those kind of figures. So it was maybe a little bit surprising there wasn't more Dragon Ball Super. I personally don't particularly mind, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, there have been a lot of Dragon Ball Super figures being released in some of the other lines. For One Piece, it's a tough call with One Piece. I'm probably going to say Don Krieg for number one for me personally. I think it's an amazing sculpt. Definitely check out the you know, the images of those. The back looks really amazing as well. Two, I'm probably going to say Usopp. I think this looks really cool. This actually reminds me, if you ever come to Japan, make sure you go to the One Piece. What's it called? One Piece World. I forget the actual name of it, in Tokyo Tower. and there's like lots of mini games and things you can do, and there's one game where you actually can use a slingshot to fire at targets and things. It reminds me of that. So yeah, if you ever come to Japan, check that out at Tokyo Tower. But I think the sculpt for this looks really amazing. And for 3, I'm probably going to say the Luffy. I really like the Luffy. Um, so yeah, I'm actually really interested where the inspiration for this figure came from. I'm guessing it's from one of the color walks, which is like the art book series for One Piece, but I couldn't actually find this exact outfit of Luffy. So if someone knows, make sure you leave a comment. I'd be really interested to know. And special mention, I would say Katakuri. I think Katakuri also looks pretty awesome. I think this figure is also quite large. Actually, I think it's around about 20 centimeters or even bigger. So it's about 7 inches or something. But yeah, that's just my personal favorites. Would definitely love to know what you guys think. So there were 2 awards. There was like the Banpresto Award, and then there was the Fan Award. And so the Banpresto Award was kind of what like a panel of experts decided was the best figure, and then the Fan Award is obviously what what everybody else decided on. So for Dragon Ball, the Banpresto Award went to Goku, whereas for me personally, that's probably my least favorite of them all. You know, and not that it's a bad figure, but I would have rathered something else, like even I don't know, even like Android 19. Not probably a very popular character, but at least then we've got Android 16, 17, 18, and 20. So just something different. And for One Piece, it was Usopp. This Usopp. So that was the Banpresto Award, and the Fan Award for Dragon Ball went to Super Saiyan Rose Goku Black. And the Fan Award for One Piece, I believe, was this Luffy. Well, there's only one Luffy. So yeah, the Luffy. But yeah, would love to know what you guys think of the upcoming series. Which one do you want to get? As I said at the beginning of the video, you can pre-order these from us. The links are in the description of this video, and you can see more images of each of the figures, as well as details such as their sizes, etc. So sorry this video ended up being quite long. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.